If you're not solving some sort of problem or making their life easier, better in some way, then you don't have anything to market.
Welcome to the Marketing Study Lab podcast with me, Peter Sumpton, the Lego master of marketing and marketing consultant, providing you with the building blocks you need to be a successful marketer. This intro lasts about 1 minute, so feel free to skip forward if you've heard all this before. I seriously won't be offended. If you're new to the show, we chat to amazing people to give you practical advice you can implement right now that will make you and your marketing truly awesome. The conversations we have will lead you to the actionable marketing knowledge you've been craving, and now you've found it, so you can relax and enjoy the rest of the show. Thanks to all those that have left a 5-star Apple Podcast review. It's the best way to support what I'm trying to do here. If you have a burning marketing question, you can catch me on LinkedIn. I know I'm supposed to say the links are in the show notes, but let's face it, you've got better things to do than try and find those pesky show notes right now. Enough of the show intro. Let's get on with introducing our guest. Something a little different this week, as I want to share a recording of my first live or attempt at a live way back in March of this year. Yep, way back when we were young and mask-free. Why am I sharing this now? Well, I think it's such a topical time to dive deep into all things marketing strategy. When your industry and buyers' behaviour may be changing at a rapid rate, you should always focus on your strategic direction, whether this needs reassessing or it's already nailed to the mast. A robust marketing strategy will weather most stormy seas for you. I really don't know where these turgid sayings are coming from, so let's stop that now and get chatting to Marketing Study Lab second timer, Krista Fabrick. Or should I say Dr. Krista Fabrick? Because since this recording, Krista has managed to get her doctorate. Congratulations. Unfortunately, it was after this recording, so we don't mention it an awful lot, but congrats anyway. So in this episode, we cover how to formulate a strategy, the difference between strategy and tactics, pricing and perception, and of course, where do podcasts fit in all this? But without a random opener today, let's dive in with a tentative, are we live yet? See how this works. Right, should be live now. Fantastic.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, first live. Thank you very much, Krista, for joining me. Seems to be working as well, so I can close that now. Fantastic.
Yes.
And focus on my guest. So I'd just like, before we get into anything else, I'd just like to give you a brief introduction, and then you can fill us in on the bits that that's missing, and then we'll dive straight into what people should be doing in terms of marketing, because I know there's a lot of people out there that are probably thinking that things have changed and we need to completely reinvent the wheel, which we don't, but let's just go through it bit by bit. So first of all, who is Krista? So she teaches students, entrepreneurs, and small businesses how to market themselves. She's got a podcast, and she's currently doing a doctorate in which a dissertation topic is going to be social media marketing. So what better person to speak to right now on a social media channel than Krista? Very, very brief intro. I'd like you yourself to fill in the bits that I've missed and big yourself up a little bit.
Yes. Well, no, that's it. That's me in a nutshell, really. And it really boils down to everything that I do has to do with teaching and marketing, right? So that's me. But I've worked in marketing and advertising for almost 20 years and worked in social media from the very early days before anybody really even knew what social media meant. So I was fortunate to get to work with Verizon Wireless when they were working on their Twitter account. How did we use Twitter to answer customer questions and to promote some of our hip, young things we're doing with music tours and things? And so that was way back in 2007. I was already doing that.
It's so different in 13 years, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, so I've but the thing that, I've done is I've evolved with it, right? Social media, if you're not using it, then you're out of date. So, I thankfully I love being social online and offline. And so it's a natural fit for me to have to be active on social media and get to meet awesome people like you. Yeah. So I guess that's all I don't have a whole lot to add because you had me in a nutshell.
Brilliant, fantastic. And you've got so much going on. And like you say, and I learned this the hard way, even today, that if you're not practicing it and you're not doing it day in, day out, it's so easy to slip behind. So we had this Facebook Live arranged about a month ago or so,
right.
Due to time schedules and everything. And it was only today I thought, I better make sure that I know how to do this live stuff.
Right.
And then looked at a few things and realized that there wasn't much on Facebook Live out there. And then looking at StreamYard, asked you what you used and all that kind of stuff. And you came to my rescue. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. It was just a bit crazy in terms of like how things change and you think you're up to speed. But I suppose the thing is you'll never know everything.
That's right. If anybody tells you that they know everything, run away quickly and don't hire them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, damn right. So what I'd like to do is dive straight into all this stuff we call marketing and kind of take it from the top. So one thing I asked my group members was, what do you want to know and learn about? And one of the main things was strategy. And I think we get that confused in a lot of ways, and we'll come on to that a little bit later on. But I suppose first and foremost, and this is the bit that I always preach and teach because everyone forgets it and they want to go straight to the nice, fluffy promotional stuff.
Right.
And we'll even get to that later on. But where do we start with marketing planning? Like, fill us in, help us out here.
Yes, and I know that's why you and I connected in the first place. I think Vicky connected us because she knew we both kind of preach that same thing all the time, that you have to start, with the foundation. You can't just jump into tactics and promotions. And in today's world of want results now and social media and all the online stuff, a lot of people just really do forget that. So, I love, this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. And believe it or not, I even get my college students excited about this in my social media and marketing classes I teach because they're like, oh, I've never really heard about this, or I didn't realize how important it was to. So where do you start though? I think really you have to start with, what is the problem you solve? What are you, how are you helping your customers or potential customers with your products or services? And if you don't know how to clearly articulate what problem you solve, once again, you're going to have a hard time getting a clear marketing message across.
Yeah.
So that's where I always have people start. And that's anytime I get a person who says, help me with my marketing, or I get a potential new client, that's, well, what problem do you solve? And sometimes you look at me like, what do you mean? What? So.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting you mentioned Vicky there because, she does a lot on persona work as well. And that's something key, where do you start? What problem do you solve and who you're solving it for? And one thing that I do, and I've just started it in the classroom because I heard it on a podcast and I just thought it was brilliant, is that you get people to describe their favorite character, fictional character or on-screen character in detail, go into detail, how old they are, male, female, what do they like doing, what's their job and all that kind of stuff. And then you get them to read it out and usually it's a bit funny because, people like comedy and stuff like that. And then you say, okay, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. Right. Okay. I'd like you to do exactly the same for your customers. And it's like, but we don't know that.
Yeah.
You're like, what?
Yeah. Yep. That's great. And that's actually, I love that exercise. That is a great way to do that. And yeah, I've learned that's an area that I've worked a lot on, but I've learned a ton from Vicky. And so I'm going to steal that exercise right there. But that's my next thing, is it once you know the problem you solve is, who are you solving it for? If you don't know who your ideal customer is, then you got to go back to the drawing board and figure that out, because you can't talk to everyone unless you're Coca-Cola, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So just sticking with that. So we found out the problem that we've solved. We've got a great solution in the problem, but how do we know who our ideal client is? What are we doing? Where do we go to find this stuff out? It might sound like a stupid question.
No, it's not at all. It's a question that I answer all the time.
Yeah, sure.
So if you've been in business for any amount of time, then look at who are your current customers, who have been your past customers, and try to see if there's any themes, recurring characteristics. I'll give a real life example. So, I actually do have a business with a partner called Creating You that, we work on, we help people with personal branding for entrepreneurs is really the main focus there, but anybody can learn from it. And we started with the intention of wanting to go after, because my business partner is 25. We thought, okay, we're going to go after, there's a lot of 20 somethings that like really want to like, do a side hustle, start their own business, whatever. And we started doing workshops, and we did, just doing all this content and whatever. And all of a sudden, 6 months in, we were realizing that our core audience was not at all who we wanted to go after, who we thought we were going after. We were getting 35 to 55, moms and dads who have a business, and they're trying to figure out, how the heck do I use this social media thing to help my business? And that's who our message was resonating with. And as soon as we leaned into that and really started targeting what we were saying more to that audience, then we were getting even more engagement and getting more referrals and getting more people to our workshops, because we were targeting our right ideal audience, right? But when we started out, we were brand new, and we kind of, based on what we knew from what we'd been doing and who we talked to in our circles, we thought that was our ideal customer. But after 6 months, we were able to look and see who have we really been reaching. So if you have been in business for a while, that's the first place to start, is who's been buying from you, who's been sharing your content, who's been engaging with your content, who's signed up for your email list, who's subscribed to your YouTube channel, your podcast. Now, if you're brand new, or you have maybe customers all over the place, then you can cheat a little and start looking at your competition, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So you can see who's following their Instagram page, who's subscribed to their YouTube channel. You can see all this information online of who's following who, and you can see who's like their Facebook page. You can see the ads they're running and who's liking the ads they're running even on Facebook. So there's a lot of simple ways that you can find out who is your ideal customer. Also, if you know the problem you solve, you obviously can think of like who needs the solution you're offering, right? If you have something very specific, like let's say you have some sort of product for babies, obviously you're targeting parents with babies. I mean, things like that. So.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's an interesting point there. Another thing I do when I'm teaching is I usually take a cereal box with me. And it's usually some kind of children's cereal. So I suppose in the US that would be Captain Crunch or Knowledge here, or is it Fruity Loops?
Yeah, Fruit Loops.
Fruit Loops, yeah. Okay, in this country maybe Cocoa Pop, something like that. And I say, okay, who's this for? Who's the product for? And it's for children. And it's okay. So the front of it, who's it marketed for? Well, it's got a monkey on it or some kind of character. It's children. Absolutely brilliant. Who's buying it? The parents. Okay. Right. So how do you get the parents involved other than peer pressure from the kids to purchase it? And you look on the side and the back, and it's all about nutrients and sustainable farming and things like that. Children aren't bothered about that, but the parents are. Yep. So it's almost like, who's your target market, but who's going to do the purchasing as well?
Yes, and that's when you're targeting, certain services like that, where it's either products for children or maybe products for like people that are being taken care of, like. You're targeting two audiences at the same time, which gets more complicated, but that's another excellent example, and I love that exercise as well.
Cool. So what I want to do now is we've spoken about why you should marketing plan, and obviously everybody should in the entire world. Yeah. And I think we've touched upon a few things there, but I just want to go into a bit more detail about some research and why we should bother doing any type of research. Why can't we know our ideal client, we know the problem we solve, let's just go for it?
Yeah. Just go for it. Yeah, that's not a good idea.
Why not?
Well, because you need to find a lot of things. First of all, once you know, or you think you know who your ideal client is, you really need to research that ideal client, right? So you need to figure out, where do they want to hear marketing messages, right? For example, like Gen Z, they say they don't want to hear marketing messages, yet the favorite influencer tells them go buy X, and they go buy X, So they actually do want to be marketed to. They just don't want to be marketed to with a TV commercial or a piece of direct mail. But, let's say somebody, maybe your target audience is 60 and older, you're not going to get to them on TikTok or maybe even on Facebook. You might, my parents are all on Facebook, but you will probably still get to them with direct mail. So, you need to know who your ideal audience is, but then you need to research where are they wanting to be marketed to, where are they spending time, where are they consuming content. There's so many options now. There's, pre-roll and mid-roll and post-roll ads on YouTube and Hulu. And so even commercials still can work. They're just not commercials in the way we thought of them 10 years ago even. But yeah, you need to research, where is your ideal client likely to be found and where are they likely to be receptive to your marketing message? And then you need to figure out, do you have the time and or the budget and or the resources to market in those places? Kind of one of my simplest ways that I always explain to my college students, marketing is the right product or service with the right message to the right person in the right place at the right time.
It's that simple.
That's it.
Yeah, definitely.
But, so that's where you have to do your research. I mean, whether it's looking at what your competition is doing, looking at where your audience is hanging out, or where your customers are hanging out, whether it's looking to see what you've done in the past that's worked. Yeah, I mean, if you're not tracking and measuring and evaluating your previous marketing efforts, then you're also missing out there. That's another great area to be researching.
Yeah, and we don't have to be on all channels all the time, and that's
absolutely not.
Exactly what you're saying there. All the right people, the right places, and all that. It doesn't have to be all the channels. And again, if you're just starting out, absolutely take a look at what your competitors are doing. But if you're not, it might not be where your competitors are actually focusing their efforts that you need to focus your efforts on.
Yeah.
Do your own research.
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes you might have an opportunity to be somewhere your competition's not, and your customers are. Or some of them. But if you can reach find a way to reach your customers that the competition's not, then obviously that's a great opportunity. And that's where things like, if your audience is on, or customers are on the, under 40 side, things like being an early adopter on the latest platform can be an advantage, or on the latest technology, like when text messaging first came out as like a way to send out, promotions. There was a lot of companies that did really well with that because none of their competitors were doing it. And there are people like me who hate email, and I'd rather get a coupon over text any day. And so, so kind of researching what are the opportunities out there for marketing and potentially reaching your customers in a place competition's not.
I like text messaging. I think there's quite an open space for that if you get the right information and you're allowed to utilize that information. Because like for me, depending on the target market, obviously, but for me, if there's a little red dot somewhere on my phone, I can press it and get rid of it. And usually the text message doesn't really have that many red dots for me because it's usually WhatsApp. So it's an open space, really. Yeah.
My text message, that's usually the thing I read first too. I mean, I'm more likely to read and respond to my text message on my phone than any other red dot. Yeah, I hate the red dots too.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so moving on. One thing I think we don't do, and this is from a marketing point of view, I don't mean you and I, just marketers in general. And this is where we can add real value and show our actual value, is either setting goals for the business, or if we're working for a business, set goals for marketing and our department, even if we're self-setting these goals. Hugely important. But how do we go about this then? Because we've done our research, we know what we're doing, but then what are our goals going to be?
Yeah, so I love this topic too, because if you don't have a goal, how do you know what you're even trying to accomplish, or how do you track results and success and failure? So goals are extremely important, and I think a lot of people just think, I kind of know in my head what I'm trying to do, or no goal, I don't want to set some big complicated goal. You need to actually write it down or type it out, have it somewhere so that it's documented. And how do you do it? I mean, I love to use the SMART formula, which I know is used throughout business, as this works for any goal really, but specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based. And there's a couple of variations on that, but that's the point. So that, it has to be something like, for marketing, for example, now with 2020, kind of crazy for everybody. You might have to reassess your goals. But the one example could be, I would like to maintain my sales revenue at 2019 levels for 2020. Maybe before it was you were going to grow, but now you're just trying to maintain. But that's a specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-based. You can now go at the end of 2020, or if you want to do it quarterly, whatever, at the end of the time period, you can look back and say, okay, what were my sales revenue numbers for 2019? Okay, what were my numbers for 2020? Okay, it worked. Yes. So, that sounds super simple, but that really is, because now if your goal is sales revenue growth, then you can now take that as a starting point. What do I need to do, step by step to increase my sales revenue? Do I have my website solid? Do I have a social media plan? Am I consistently creating content? Am I sending out my weekly newsletter or my email? Whatever it is you're doing, you now know I have this goal to achieve. Now let's figure out the steps to take to achieve that goal.
Absolutely, and not setting those goals, you're basically setting yourself up to not fail, but not achieve very much. Because if you've got your own business, then it's a fantastic marker, something to line in the sand. That's what I want to cross. If you're working for a business, it highlights to where your manager, your director, or the owner, or whoever, that we are achieving these things, or these are our targets that we want to achieve because of a certain reason.
Yep. Yeah, and it can be more, even more clear than like just a sales revenue. It could be things like, I want to launch one new product by the end of 2020, or by October 1st, but writing that and document that goal gives you a deadline, and we all know we work better with deadlines. Especially if you're answering to a client or to a boss about the marketing that you're doing, those goals give them something to understand why you need the resources you need to do what you're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing to point out there is that, and I see this more in marketing qualifications than anything. And when it says set a SMART goal, people usually write down SMART, and then they say it's specific because of this, it's measurable because, then it's like, okay, I get that. That's in depth. That's fine. But that's not necessary. It's like literally a sentence or two can fill those requirements quite easily.
Yes, exactly. And when students are learning, I have them do similar like that just to really get the concept. But as a business owner, as a marketer, doing it in real life situation, it's literally a single sentence is often all you need.
Yeah, and people overcomplicate it because they see these 5 elements and they think, well, how to make it specific? How do I make it measurable? And it's like, no, just literally write something that is undeniably what you want to achieve and how long it's going to take you. That's it.
Right. And, the achievable and the realistic part, I don't often touch specifically on that, but because it seems so simple. But the point is if you are, a brand new startup company, and let's say the fitness apparel space, your goal cannot be, I want to be number 2 in the fitness apparel space by the end of 2020, right? That is not achievable and realistic. You don't have the resources to do that, unless you get some angel investor that's going to invest $1 billion in you. Right?
Yeah, sure.
Things like that. Or even if it's, 2020, considering where we are now, if it's your goal is, I would like to double my sales revenue of 2019, unless you're a company like Zoom or one of these online education companies now, doubling your revenue in 2020 is probably not achievable or realistic. So that's things like that you have to really think about too.
Yeah. So I want to move on to my favorite topic in marketing at the moment, because we don't do this often enough.
And I'm sorry, 1 second.
Absolutely, no problem.
I have a 6-year-old that's like trying to break into my bedroom.
No, you do what you need to do.
So let me.
I can fill. So what we're going to move on to when Krista comes back is formulating a strategy, looking at your strategic options. It's kind of close to my heart, and I think it's massively important because we don't necessarily do this. We jump straight to the tactical elements. And what we'll do in a minute, we'll have a look at the difference between strategy and tactics. Quite simply, put what is a strategy and what is a tactic and what makes it different. So now Krista's back. What I was just saying there, that's brilliant. Fantastic. There's nothing like a live, is there? But that is absolutely fine.
normally they're in school right now, but obviously home is school now. So,
but no, these are the things that we accommodate nowadays. It's absolutely fine, no problem. It's live, it's real. So what I was just saying there is this topic's quite close to my heart because it's one thing we in marketing, or a lot of marketing departments skip, and they go straight to tactics. And that is the formulation of strategy, or a strategic element. So what I'd like to do is just briefly talk about like formulating a strategy, or what that kind of entails, or what it looks like.
Yes. Okay, so once you know your goal, this is why you have to have the goal too, is because once you have a goal, then you can decide your strategic approach. So if you know your goal is to increase brand awareness, then your strategy is going to be related to, it's going to be a brand-based strategy. How can we build brand awareness? If your goal is sales revenue focused, then you're going to have a financially based, strategy. And if your goal is, to launch a new product, then you're going to be having a strategy focused on product, creation. So you really have to have that goal in order to be able to accomplish or come up with a good, appropriate strategy to accomplish that goal. And then also, if you know the problem you solve, that kind of ties into, and who you're solving it for, that all ties into the strategy. And so, strategy is going to be your overarching perspective, I guess, on how you accomplish your goals and how that you're going to do your marketing. And so, there's things like, if you're launching a new product, then you might be looking at a strategy that's looking at, differentiation. Is your new product different than what's already out there in the market? Or are you going after a new segment that's you've previously not gone after a new segment of the market? Or are you going after a completely new segment and a new product? Like everything's brand new. And so how you go to the tactics comes out of this strategy, right? So you're going to have a completely different marketing mix. You're going to have a completely different promotion plan and tactics, depending on if you're in marketing to new customers in new ways, new customers in old ways, old customers in new ways. Right? That's the simple layman's terms of those different types of strategies. But
absolutely. I think you're kind of referring to Ansoff's matrix there, but let's not get too too theoretical. Trying to keep this less theory led here. The one thing that I always say about like formulation of a strategy, or how you can tell if it's a strategy, is if you're going to take a car journey and you want to go from A to B, if you want to go to A to B, your objective is to get to B at a set time. The strategy will be, I'm going to take a car to get from A to B. Now the tactics are the roads. Do you fill up with gas or petrol? Is there any brakes? What speed limit are you going to do? All those are the tactical elements, but taking the car is your actual strategy.
Yes. I love that. That's a great real life parallel example there.
I think it's just easy to kind of understand. And another thing, and I know I said not get into theory, but my favorite model in marketing at the moment is the SWOT and the TOES element of the SWOT. Which leads into strategic elements, and don't really want to go into detail about that. But
we can geek out about that stuff.
Absolutely, let's do another live, and we'll properly geek out about the SWOT and TOES, because I think I absolutely love it. It solves so many problems. Which is cool. Okay, so what I want to do now, and this is massively important for everybody. There's two things that I'd like to just clarify for everybody, because I see it time and time again, particularly with students getting these two things confused. So that's the difference between strategy and tactics, and we've kind of covered that, but I'd like your interpretation on kind of tactics compared to strategy. And then what are we classing as the marketing mix? Simply because the amount of time I speak to people and they see the marketing mix as your communication channels. So tactics, let's talk about tactics.
Okay. So, and we kind of started this interview with talking about how we have to have the foundation in place before we go straight to tactics. So I think of the strategy as the foundation. Like you said, it's who are we marketing to? Who are we marketing to, and where are we going to market to them? But the tactics is, we are going to create this new product, and it's going to be priced at this price, and we're going to send this marketing message to this platform, So the car. So let's go with the car manufacturer first, as you said, the car example. So you're Honda, and your strategy is you would like to launch a new electric-only vehicle to electric-only budget-friendly vehicle to the U.S. And so that's kind of your goal. Your strategy there is reaching eco-friendly, budget-conscious car drivers in the U.S. But your tactics are, we're going to price it at, $20,000, and we're going to promote it through our dealerships, on our website. We're going to do an email campaign. We're going to do a national TV campaign. We're going to do a national social media campaign on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, whatever. That's the tactics. So the strategy is the overarching idea of what you're going to do, but the tactics are how you're going to actually do it and how you're going to make it happen.
That's actionable tactics. And there's one thing you mentioned there, the very first thing you said, what are we going to price it at? And that fundamentally is something that marketing, a lot of marketing departments are almost missed out on. And it amazes because who set it? Are sales setting these prices? How can sales set a price? That's ludicrous. Yeah. So that leads us nicely onto pricing and the P's, if you like.
Yes. Yeah. The 4 P's, the marketing mix. So there, I believe that the foundations of the 4 P's are still an important part of marketing. Of course, there's now the modern 7 P's, and there's the, 8th P, and there's all these things. But, looking at the 4 P's, the product or service, the price, the distribution or the place, right? So that was, is it online? Is it in store? Is it whatever? And then of course, the promotion. But pricing, yeah, I agree. People so underestimate the power of pricing and the importance of it to your marketing. Think about Apple. Is this actually worth $1,000? No. Did it actually cost Apple $1,000 to produce this? Absolutely not. But they have, perceived value pricing strategy. And so they have done an excellent job of being able to put themselves in a place in the market where they can charge premium prices for their products. And that's almost exclusively due to their marketing. Of course, the quality of the product had to follow, but they put those two together and they're able to charge significantly more than some of their competitors, just like the Mac laptops and desktops. Those are way more expensive, but there's a perceived value that there's, worth it. And so pricing is really, really important. And in fact, a favorite example of mine in real life, very recent, I had a physical therapist client, 1-person shop, doesn't take insurance. And she was terrified of raising her prices because she, didn't want to lose her customers she already had, or the patients she already had. And I told her, I was like, she's worked on professional athletes. She's saved high school students from losing their college scholarships because they got an injury, and she rehabbed them so quickly. They were able to get a full ride to a Division I university. Wow. She's very specialized, very good at what she does. And she was charging next to nothing. And so I forced her to try, just with new incoming patients, a new pricing structure. And she went up by 50% in the prices. And she called me screaming, "Oh my gosh, Krista, my conversion rates have tripled." She's every single person I've shown the new higher pricing has said yes. And they've signed up for my package deals. And I was like, that's because they perceive that you are valuable, and you are valuable. And now that your pricing matches that, they're more likely to buy from you because I want the best, and she charges this much, so she must be the best, And so that she had never really thought of it as part of her marketing, and now she's, every 6 months I have to make her kind of raise her prices a little bit. Almost a year ago that happened, so we're in the midst of a price adjustment again. But by her raising her prices, she got more business, and she got more money for the business that per patient. So.
Absolutely, and it's probably deserved as well. That's the thing. In that instance, massively deserved. It's like any collectibles or baseball cards or something like that. It's like their perceived value is so overinflated for what it actually is.
Yeah.
But it's that perception of that value, and you know, anyone's perception is reality. It's like any art.
Right.
Like there's a beauty in it, yes, but what it is, you know, it's paint on a canvas. Like literally, that is all it is. But you know, I suppose I've probably upset quite a few art enthusiasts. But never mind.
You know, it's all in the value of the beholder, right? So the eye of the beholder, because if somebody thinks that piece of art is worth $10,000 and they want to pay $10,000 to have the joy of looking at it, then it's worth $10,000. You know,
absolutely,
but,
yeah.
You know, and on other than perceived value, I want to talk quickly about in this current situation. I know a lot of businesses are just discounting or trying to come up with creative special offers to continue getting business through these crazy times. And I've seen a lot of talk of saying, don't discount too deep because it's not going to last long term.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it depends. For example, a lot of restaurants here locally have been doing 50% off alcohol to go with your takeout order, or 35% off all takeout orders. And, you know, right now they're running their restaurant on a minimal amount of staff because they don't have all the staff required to have the in-house dining.
Mm-hmm.
So their costs to operate are significantly lower. So if they can continue to get business from people on takeouts by offering 35% off, they might actually be the same or ahead of the game as far as profits go, even though 35% sounds like a significant discount to offer long term. But if that means they're getting business, and as long as that's able to actually pay for the cost of the staff and food that they are using, I think that's possibly a very good thing to be doing. But I know there are some businesses that are maybe going a little too far and they can't sustain that, you know.
Yeah.
But, so that, you know, there's right now pricing is actually really important as well.
I was speaking to somebody today that just on a side note, that for hand sanitizer, I think it was in Australia, and they changed their pricing structure. Instead of saying only 2 per customer, they changed it to say you can have as many as you like. Your first purchase is $2. Your second purchase is $1,000 thereafter, and it's just like, I just thought it was a great way of viewing it.
Yeah, it is. I heard about that too, and I think that's a wonderful, because that's a great way to encourage people to, you know, take only what they need, obviously. So making that first one their normal price and available to anybody who has $2. But then for some of those crazy people who maybe do have disposable income, then that business is going to make up for some lost income potentially, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, perception is reality. And if people that have bought, you know, 50 hand sanitizers in one go really want them, they'll be prepared to pay that money as well. But it just shows, you know, you hike that price and people are like, oh, no, I'm not gonna buy that at that price.
Right.
Did you really need it in the first place then? Probably not.
Yep.
So just interestingly, we got a question today from Chikodi. Sorry if I've said your name wrong there, and it links in very nicely with what we're speaking about now. And he says, is it time to have an 8th P in the marketing mix? I think there already is one, productivity, and I think it goes on forever. But like, let's stick with the 7 extended mix. And he says either projection or perspective in terms of the current COVID-19 outbreak,
right,
and changing marketing at this moment in time. What do you think about that? Should we add a P in terms of, I think, perspective more than projection into it, or is that a bit too far?
You know, I think if you want to add it, great, because it's something that you should be kind of integrated into your marketing mix anyway. I mean, if you are not projecting, looking at the projections of current and future trends, and if you are not taking into perspective of what is going on in the world around you, then you're going to be dead in the water anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that's an excellent question, and I don't know that we need to add it officially, but especially in times of crisis like we're facing right now, both health and economic, you do have to be acutely aware of what is what's going on, and look at it from the perspective of, if you're, like, for example, my target audience for what I do is all small businesses. Most of the small businesses who are my ideal client are hurting big time. Their either doors are completely closed or their business is way down. So, you know, how I talk to them now is I'm trying to give them as much value as much help as I can and reminding them that now is the time to assess their marketing plan, assess their marketing strategy, prepare to come out of this stronger, and to not just ignore, don't ignore, don't forget, but let's say, somebody like a company like Zoom right now, they need to be out there marketing as much as possible, telling we have the tools you need to keep doing your business or to keep doing your goal, and maybe somebody who's a business that's closed down, they can't market their services right or their products or services right now, but they can continue to show up and talk to their ideal customers, via email, via text, via direct mail, via social media, however they normally do. But maybe just, give them some inspiration, give them some education, just even updates on how your business is doing. But just because there's a crisis going on, doesn't mean you can't market, but you do have to look at the perspective of your ideal customer and your audience and make sure that you're being sensitive to their perspective of what's going on.
Absolutely. And also, whatever will happen later on in 6 months, wherever we are in 6 months, who knows? But there will be an end point to this, to this current situation. And it's almost a case of, well, what do you want to be not necessarily known for, but how do you want to be remembered in this time? Is it a case of you just shut up shop and nobody heard from you? Or is it that you were the friendly face that wasn't pushy, that wasn't salesy, was just there for their community at a time that was a pandemic in the world?
Right. Yeah, and that's, people are spending more time online right now than probably ever before. And everybody's getting tired of having to read constant updates about the pandemic itself. So if you're showing up and providing any kind of value or entertainment or education or anything, your audience is going to like you for that probably. So, and they'll remember that.
So I just want to finish today with your take or your perspective of the types of tools and software that we should, I suppose it's more prevalent now than ever, but the tools and software that we should be using within our marketing that can really help us. Yes.
It depends, of course, on the size of your business and your marketing team, but generally speaking, I highly recommend, having something like a Trello, project management, things like that, Asana, Airtable, pick your choice, what's most comfortable for you. Trello is what I've been using for a bit now, because that allows you to have, schedule out projects, schedule out marketing, collaborate, invite other people to edit and to see what's going on. You can set due dates. And so that's something, marketing can get overwhelming so easily. So having it organized, what you're doing with your marketing is really going to help you keep track of what you're doing, and stay consistent, and actually execute, what you're doing. Now, as far as actually, creating content or being active on social media, I would say, getting something, sign up with something like a Feedly or a DrumUp.io, so you can sign up to get content about your industry, about your business, so that you can stay up to date, and then also it can inspire your content as well. Because if you don't know what content to create, read an article and then write a post with your 3 takeaways from that article and share the article. I mean, boom, now you have content, right?
Yeah.
So something like Feedly or DrumUp.io. And then if you need help creating any kind of graphics, images, anything, if you haven't tried Canva, for the non-designer, Canva is super helpful. You can do emails, you can do flyers, you can do your website headers, you can do social media graphics. I mean, it has options for just about anything and everything. So those are kind of some of my favorite tools that I use for marketing for me and my clients. If you can use more of a CRM system, Hootsuite or even HubSpot are fabulous. I have lots of clients that have used those, and I've used them myself as well for a more kind of comprehensive customer relationship management tool.
So would you suggest, my final question to you, because we both dabble or create it, is would you suggest people look to invest time in creating their own podcast?
Oh, yes. If you have any desire to do one and you have a topic that you can talk about, then I highly recommend, if you think you could do it, I challenge you to sit down and write down 30 episode titles. If you can quickly and easily come up with 30 episode titles or ideas, then you're probably ready to start a podcast. And, podcast world is so unsaturated still.
Yeah.
It's where blogs were 10 years ago, right? And what's beautiful about a podcast is people are on the go. People are doing schoolwork, they're doing work, they're commuting, they're running, they're at the gym. They can have a podcast, and no matter what you're doing, you can have that in your ear and be listening.
Yeah.
And so it's only continuing to grow. The average podcast subscriber is subscribed to 7 podcasts. And as more and more celebrities jump in on that, they're bringing more people to podcasting. Then are going to subscribe to 6 other ones other than that celebrities podcast, right? I'm a big believer in podcasts, and I love podcasts. I love having one. I love listening to them.
Yeah. Same here. And I think it's interesting to note, I think there's 850,000 podcasts available now. And the majority of them don't get past 4 episodes. So if you think of that in terms of blog posts and blogging, like you said, so untapped market. It's unreal.
Yeah, I know. That's why I feel proud to say our podcast is that we just released episode 62 yesterday. So we're going strong. We took 2 weeks off in December, and other than that, we have not missed a week since January 1st, 2019. So
brilliant. Oh, love it. Well done. That's great stuff. Absolutely superb. Just for people that are listening, name of podcast?
It is called It's a Beautiful Influence. And you can find all the podcast places.
all decent podcast places and apps. Final question then, because I know you have your own Facebook group, and I know you've got a few things going on there. I would really, really like you to push and promote what you're currently doing on your group. Yes.
So my group is called Simplified Marketing for Small Business Owners. So exactly what I've been talking about, my ideal client. And that group is fairly new. It's not even 2 months old yet, but it's growing every week. And in there, I'm doing weekly marketing audits for members of the group. So, I'm asking for volunteers. I'm booked up at least a few weeks advance, where I actually go through and I give them a minimum of 3 to 5 wins in their overall marketing strategy and tactics, and 3 to 5 areas for improvement. So that's one of the most exciting things I think I'm doing in there. I've also been hosting weekly live interviews with different experts, including I believe our mutual friends, both Vicky O'Neill and John Asperian.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm going to try and bring in some accounting and different areas of business just to help small business owners there. And then, in fact, this coming week, I'm doing a series of mini live video trainings in there. Today, I'm going to be doing a training on how to use Instagram stories better. So just trying to provide a lot of value in there and help small business owners with their marketing in any way I can. That's
cool. What I'll do, I think you can actually link groups. So I'll link to your group, and I'll put the link in the show notes and the post and all that kind of stuff as well, because people need to be involved in it. As soon as I saw you did that kind of marketing audit, I just sat down and thought, oh, why didn't I think of that? It's such a good idea. It's absolutely brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, it's been so helpful, for somebody like you and I, who we could do that in our sleep. I spend about maybe 30 minutes a week doing that. So it's not like a huge time investment, but it's such a blessing to those small business owners. And they really are gaining and learning from that. And I've loved seeing every single one of them has implemented at least a few of the changes I suggested, which has been really fun to see. So
I love it. And those and you say implement changes, but it could be a small change that could make a huge difference.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. So anybody that's still listening, check it out. Get on the group and put your hand up and say, get Krista to do you an audit. It's well worth it. So final thing, thank you so much for joining me. Absolute pleasure. I mean, I think we could talk for another 3 or 4 hours about all this kind of stuff, but we've got houses that we need to stay in for the foreseeable. So we need to go and do some cleaning or something, I think. Great stuff. Thank you very much, Krista, and I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Peter.
Thank Thank you so much for joining us today on Marketing Study Lab. It really means the world that you're listening to this out there. And hopefully I've provided you some value. If you're looking to know more about what Marketing Study Lab does and is about, go to marketingstudylab.co.uk or get in touch with me personally, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or feel free to email me at peter@marketingstudylab.co.uk. Happy marketing.